Welcome back to the channel, and today I wanted to give you all my best setups for protected rivals in college football 26. With some bombshell news in the SEC this past week, I wanted to refresh the list that we made before the season for the P4 teams, as well as give setups for all the other conferences we missed in. So I hope you all enjoy today's video, and if you do, leave a like below and consider subscribing to the channel for more college football 26 content. Starting off our alignment, we have the Big Ten. While the Big Ten doesn't have a full slate of protected rivals in real life, they do have a handful of protected games like Michigan, Ohio State. In our alignment, we kept all but one of these in the game. Sorry, Nebraska. And here is our full list on screen. With trophy games littered throughout the whole Big Ten, it makes it really easy to pair up teams from here. The only team that really gets screwed in this alignment is going to be Nebraska, as they lose out on their top few rivals in the conference. But if you are a big Nebraska fan, you still get the pleasure of playing OSU every season, and you should definitely schedule some out-of-conference Big 12 rivalries in your non-con games like most players probably would. Next up, we have the SEC, the conference that started this whole video idea, and in this breakdown, I wanted to keep the sanctity of the realism as much as possible, but with only 2 games allowed to be protected, it made it slightly hard. Hopefully EA can add a third team option next season to match the real life slate. But all in all, we were able to keep one real life game for each team, except South Carolina, and we kept both for over half the team, so I think this alignment works well. With South Carolina not really having many in-conference rivalries anyways, it made the most sense for them to be the odd man out. But if you want to give them a little bit of love, you can always consider switching their Vandy game to UK and moving them to play Mississippi State to keep it more in line with real life. For the third league here, we kept it pretty similar to the previous iterations, with teams like UCF, West Virginia, and Cincinnati being in a pseudo 3-team pod, as well as the Arizona schools and Houston. Some of the obvious changes you can make would be adding in Houston to the Old American group and having them play UCF or Cincinnati to give a throwback to those times. Similarly, you can change the Colorado games around to have them play the Arizona schools as a nod to the Pac-12 days, but I personally like the setup as it is. For the ACC, I have 2 options to go with depending on your personal preference for realism or more historic matchups. And the first one is my personal favorite, and it focuses on the historical and trophy matchups over what the ACC Commissioner's Office has chose to do with their schedule. This sees games like Syracuse and Clemson, as well as FSU and Virginia, which are both trophy games in real life, although the FSU and UVA one is not represented in the game. In the true to life option, we see a few of those games fall off, as well as a couple other groupings move around. You do also gain the Clemson-Georgia Tech rivalry in this version over the Clemson-North Carolina State Textile Bowl, and the only 2 real-life protected games we miss out on are the UNC-UVA and the NC State and Duke series, but feel free to add those in if you prefer. Now stepping into the group of 5, these first 2 were honestly quite lacking in trophy games or even outright designated rivalry games. In the first one, we have the American Conference, which may have the least amount of denoted rivalry games, with a total of 2 currently. Those games are Army and Navy, as well as Memphis and UAB, and I would say those 2 games are absolute locks no matter what alignment you do. But on screen you can see the route I chose. I kept as many games to regionality as possible, and with conferences having so many limited rivalry games, I gave the option of a 1-team protected rival setup or a 2-team protected rival setup, so you can choose what your preference is. Similarly to the American Conference, we have very little games we needed to lock looking into the Conference USA, as they only have 3 denoted rivalry games in college football 26. Outside of that, we have some obvious matchups in terms of locality, but there are some odd men out like Missouri State, who we have paired up with Delaware and New Mexico State. Again, we have the option of a 1 or 2 team setup, so you choose what you prefer. Also, as a side note, if you do plan to recreate real life changes in the 2026 moves in your Dynasty, you will have to manually change any of these conferences that you move teams to, so keep that in mind. As our third G5 conference, we get back to a conference that has a ton of history within its borders. The MAC is by far the most stable conference in college football at the moment, and with that, we see a ton of rivalries. Also, with this conference having an odd number of teams, you have to have the 2 protected rivals, but that is more than okay, as most teams have at least 2 here. The only teams that don't are Buffalo and UMass. Since they are both Northeast teams, we have them paired up as a pseudo rivalry in our alignment. Next up, we have the Mountain West Conference, which is in a similar spot to the MAC with a ton of options to go with. Teams like Fresno State and Hawaii have too many rivalries with 4 and 5 respectively. The great thing here is that all but one team has a trophy game within College Football 26, and that is New Mexico. But with their Utah State matchup, they still have over 25 meetings between them. And with New Mexico State University on the roster yearly, you still have at least one trophy game to play for. Lastly, we have the Sun Belt, and this one by far is the easiest to manage since the conference has divisions and all the rivalries will take place on their own. So you have 3 options. 1, you can just have no protected rivalries if you choose, or 2, you can leave this on a default choice that the game gives, or 3, which is the one I choose to do most times, is base the protected rivalries on amount of times the teams have played and just go with one of the highest or higher opponents that they've played, like the ones you see here. But with that, that's the end of our video. I hope y'all enjoyed today. Let me know in the comments what ones I missed. I'm sure there's some rivalry games that we left out, especially in conferences like the Mountain West and the SEC. There's a ton of other rivalries you can choose from that we didn't have listed, but I tried to keep it as down to earth as possible. And where teams didn't have true rivalry games or trophy games within the game, I try to keep it as local as possible to kind of build that underlying hatred within the game. So I appreciate y'all tuning in. I hope y'all enjoyed it. And as always, I'll catch you all in the next one.